Quiet children. Break later. The truth about emotional neglect. I don't remember being hit. I don't remember being screamed at every day. I don't remember chaos. That's what makes this harder to explain. From the outside, my childhood looked fine. We had food. We had a house. We had rules. We had routines. But what we didn't have was warmth. And you don't realize you're missing warmth when you're young. You just grow around the cold. I learned early that my emotions were inconvenient, not because anyone said it directly, but because of what happened when I showed them. If I cried, I was told I was too sensitive. If I got excited, I was told to calm down. If I was scared, I was told, there's nothing to be afraid of. Every feeling I had was either minimized or corrected. So I adjusted. I stopped crying loudly. I stopped celebrating loudly. I stopped being afraid out loud. I became manageable. I became easy. I became the child that didn't cause problems. And everyone praised me for it. She's so mature. He's so independent. They never give us trouble. What they didn't see was that I wasn't independent. I was alone. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes from having parents who are physically present but emotionally absent. They show up to school events. They pay the bills. They ask about grades, but they don't ask, "How are you feeling?" And if they do, it's quick, surface level. A question waiting for a convenient answer. Fine. That word became my shield. I don't remember being comforted when I was overwhelmed. I remember being told to go to my room until I calmed down. So I learned to self-soothe before I even understood what that meant. I would sit on the edge of my bed, trying to swallow feelings that felt too big for a small body. No one taught me how to name emotions, so I learned to ignore them. When something hurt, I told myself it didn't matter. When something scared me, I told myself to be strong. When I needed reassurance, I convinced myself I didn't. The hardest part about emotional neglect is that it's invisible. There are no bruises, no dramatic stories, just quiet moments where you needed someone, and no one came. I remember once getting in trouble at school. It wasn't even serious, but I was terrified to tell my parents, not because they would scream, but because I knew disappointment would fill the room like smoke, heavy, silent, suffocating. They didn't yell. They just withdrew. And somehow, that hurt more. I would have preferred anger. At least anger is engagement. Silence feels like erasure. Over time, I became hyper-aware of other people's moods. I could read a room instantly. The shift in tone, the slight sigh, the change in footsteps. I learned to adjust myself accordingly. If someone was stressed, I became smaller. If someone was angry, I became invisible. If someone was distant, I tried harder. That's how emotional neglect rewires you. You grow up believing love is something you earn by being easy, by not needing too much, by not asking for reassurance, by not being dramatic. As an adult, it followed me. In friendships, I rarely expressed hurt. In relationships, I over-explained myself. I apologized for having needs. I felt guilty when I wanted comfort. I didn't know how to let someone take care of me, because no one really had before. I confused independence with strength. But it wasn't strength. It was conditioning. Even now, when someone raises their voice slightly, my chest tightens. When someone seems distant, I assume I did something wrong. When someone loves me consistently, I don't fully trust it, because consistency feels unfamiliar. People talk about childhood trauma like it has to be explosive, but sometimes it's just years of emotional misattunement, years of not being seen, years of being told indirectly that your feelings are too much, or not important, or inconvenient. And you carry that into adulthood without realizing it. You become the person who says, "It's okay, I don't mind," even when you do. You become the one who listens to everyone else, but struggles to share your own pain. You become reliable, calm, self-sufficient, and quietly empty. I don't hate my parents. That's another complicated part. They did what they knew. Maybe no one taught them how to sit with a crying child. Maybe they were emotionally neglected too. But understanding it doesn't erase the impact. There are still moments when I wish someone had knelt down, looked me in the eyes, and said, "Your feelings make sense." There are still parts of me that feel 8 years old when I'm overwhelmed, still waiting for someone to notice without me having to ask. The hardest truth I've had to accept is this: emotional neglect doesn't teach you how to feel. It teaches you how to suppress, and suppression works. Until it doesn't. Why you shut down during conflict. Why you feel lonely even when someone loves you. It's because a part of you learned early that needing people leads to disappointment. So you stopped needing. Or at least, you pretended to. Healing hasn't been dramatic. It's been small, uncomfortable. Admitting when something hurts instead of brushing it off. Saying, "That upset me," without apologizing for it. Letting someone sit next to me when I'm overwhelmed instead of isolating. It feels unnatural sometimes, like I'm breaking a rule that was written into me years ago. But I'm learning something slowly. Having emotions doesn't make you difficult. Needing comfort doesn't make you weak. And being independent doesn't mean you were never hurt. If you grew up in a house where everything looked fine, but you still feel an ache you can't fully explain, you're not ungrateful. You're not dramatic. You're responding to something that was missing. And missing things can shape you just as deeply as painful ones. Sometimes the loudest wounds are the ones no one ever saw.